Hi everybody, how are you all doing? Welcome back to my channel, and this is Andy. Today we're going to be learning how to make a fabric basket. So a lot of you have asked on a tutorial on how to make these baskets. They're very simple, they're great to sew and sell at markets, online. I've seen a lot of people on Etsy selling these. I sell these as a pair. So, for example, uniform. Let's just say these are uniform. um, for two, one smaller and one bigger, I sell them for $20 for a pair. And you can check your cost. And usually I do multiplied by 3, cost multiplied by 3. That's usually my formula, but not always the case. So always, you know, always think about what you want to get out of each item, but also compare it with other makers, because you don't want them to look very expensive when you have this, kind of similar stuff selling. Anyway, so today we're gonna be using this curtain fabric, which is another upcycled, if you use upcycled materials, you lessen your cost, so which is great, because then you can sell it for the same price as other makers, but you have lesser cost because you're using secondhand materials, and one way of helping our Mother Earth. So I think that's a win-win. Anyway, if you have any questions, please comment down below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe in our channel. I really appreciate all your help and support. And we have the makers Facebook community, so please join us and share each other's experience and sewing journey. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we have this material here. I have cut 2 pieces of my exterior and 2 pieces of my curtain upholstery fabric for my lining. Okay, let's talk about this. How do you make it stand? It's easy for these fabrics to make it stand because they're thick, and yeah, they're thick, like really sturdy material. But what if you're using cotton quilt, say for example this fabric that's flimsy and very lightweight material? How do you make it stand? Because that, if you make that into, it's just gonna fall over. It's just gonna be, it's not gonna have its shape properly. How you do that is you either apply woven interfacing, which is, let me just show you. Here's a sample of a woven interfacing. It's just like your white cotton fabric. The only difference is it's got a fusible backing or a sticky backing. That's what you put on the wrong side of the fabric. So you just put that over there and then iron it. So you do that on both of your exterior material. Now, also, let's talk about the exterior material and the lining. Now, this type of fabric basket is reversible, so meaning we can just reverse it, and you can have that. And then if you want the print to be, this is kind of minimalist style, you can absolutely do that. So there's no proper exterior and interior. So you know what, you can play around with your fabrics, what do you wanna combine. But this, I like it this way. I like the print that is, the print is the outer bit. So it's totally up to you if you want to just use the same fabric for outer and inner, or outer and inner, or you wanna mix and match your fabric. So totally your personal choice. Look at your stash. This is a great stash project because you only need this. Now we're going to talk about the size. You only need this 10 inch by 10 inch. So this is a 10-inch square. It's fairly easy for me because I have this ruler. If you have a ruler like this, then great for you. For example, you have a smaller square than this one, maybe an 8 by 8 inch, that's fine too. You can use that. So you can use any size of your square, 8 inch, 9 inches square, any square, and then cut on corners. If you have a printed fabric and a directional print, this only goes one way. So I have to make sure that I cut on the right corners. So for example, this one, I've cut on, the bottom corner of my my fabric because it's a directional one. Now, what's the size of your boxed? So this is what gives it this bit. So now I've cut, because I have a 10-inch square, I've cut 2-inch square. Okay, so you could use your pen and your ruler and just, write or mark your 2-inch square, 2-inch square, cut that, and you're ready to go. So the same thing as this lining or exterior, you cut on 2 corners, okay? So you do that, and then if you're using for example, this fusible fleece, okay, you can iron that on the back, and make sure that if you iron a fusible fleece, let me show you a sample. Here's my fusible fleece. If you iron that, this is a bit small for this project. I recommend, before cutting the corners, for cutting that box corners, iron your interfacing now, before you do that. So again, as always, when I'm doing a tutorial, I always recommend to watch the whole tutorial before you go and cut your fabrics. Then if you're ready, grab your materials and then follow the instructions. Only if you're sure. And now, so if you have a fusible fleece, this is the sticky side of it. There is a sticky side, which is the rough bit. It's fairly easy to find. So this rough bit, you can find the sticky side, just like your woven interfacing. The same thing, you put it down. The only difference is you do not iron directly on your fusible. You flip it, iron it on the fabric side, because you don't want that sticking on your iron. Trust me, I've done it and it's a painful experience. You don't want to do it. If you really want to iron on this side, at least put a fabric over it and make sure that you're sticking it to the wrong side of your exterior. Hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below and I'll try and answer all your questions. Okay, so now you've done that. I'm not gonna interface any of my materials because I'm pretty confident that it's gonna be the same as this one. Okay, so now what do we do? So grab your exterior, your printed fabric, and then face it print to print. So the right sides together, okay? Right sides together. You're gonna pin that in place. Just grab my pins. Pin that in place. I like to pin it far from the edge where I'll be sewing, just so I don't touch my pins. I don't like that pin breaking my needle. Okay. So there There you go. I think that's enough. Now I'm gonna sew 1/4 of an inch away from the edge all the way down. Okay, leave this top open, don't stitch the top. So, and then again, 1/4 of an inch down this line. So here and there. So let's do that. Back stitch, here down, then back stitch, then again one side, and go, and on the other. There you go. Now remove the pins. Just keep your pins next to you and open up the corners. And then open the seam. You can see it. So now they're opened. We open the seam just to avoid bulk. You can also nest your seam. So one seam goes one side, one seam on the other side. So just like that. I like this method. Now pin away, and then you're gonna sew that down 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, and do that on the other one. Now, wherever you folded that first seam, you want to make sure that it's on the right seam as well on the other side, just so you know it's balanced. That's just how I like it. So pin that in place, make sure the seam nests together. Okay, so let's sew that. Back stitch. Oops. On the other side. Go. So now you can see your fabric basket is taking shape. There you go. It's pretty good, right? Okay, now we're gonna do exactly the same on our lining. So grab that lining. Again, you're gonna pin it together. This is such a fast and easy project to make, and it's so good to sell them. Okay. Just keep it together, okay? By the way, if you've used an interfacing for your exterior, you don't need to use another interfacing for your interior. You know, you can if you really wish to, but you don't have to. Now, how do you make it inside not, you know, not have a saggy lining? You sew the seam allowance, you sew 1 millimeter bigger than your main fabric. So mine, instead of doing 1/4 of an inch, I'm doing a bit bigger. Okay, it's done. Now we do the boxing of our corners. Again, I'm gonna nest my seams. So how do we do that again? Just do that. That's nesting my seam. It's also nice to use wonder clips or just clips, especially if you're dealing with, you know, bulky fabric. And now because that seam is going that direction, I'm gonna keep it that way. Okay, here you go. All right, just guide that through. If you keep doing this, keep making fabric baskets, you're gonna finish one basket in 5 minutes. You don't even notice. Make sure to backstitch every time you stitch a corner. All right, now this is the fun bit. Your main fabric facing right side. Okay, so you've already turned that inside out. And then your lining is on the wrong side. Now you're gonna put this inside of your lining. Okay, and then match your seams. You can either, this time I'm gonna open up my seam and then match with the other one. So you can see, now I'll clip that in place. And then go on the other seam before you go anywhere else. Make sure the seams match first. That's how you make it really nice, professional look. Okay, and now you can work your way around it. So, clip that. Okay, now we're gonna stop. So we're gonna leave an opening, a 3-inch opening right here. So what we're gonna do is start stitching from one side all the way around up to here. So you can go ahead, so you don't forget. What I advise you is to grab your marker and then just mark, say there, just eyeball it. You don't need to measure these things. Just make sure you have enough opening to turn all of it inside out. So here, and then so you can start from one to the next. So let's do that. Again, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance from the edge. So let's put that aside. Make sure to back stitch beginning and end. So here's our mark. Okay, we're almost done. So now we left an opening over here. So grab that, turn it inside out. It's gonna be a bit bulky, so just make sure you don't break your seams. Okay, so there, that's my lining and exterior. So just poke the corners out with your finger, or grab chopsticks or anything you can use to poke. Okay, now we have this. Now insert your lining. So there you go. And roll it with your fingers. Now you can clip or pin, or you can go and iron it flat. So make sure two are matching. So I'm gonna clip it, so I like to clip. By the way, you can join our community of the makers on Facebook. There's a link down below if you wanna be part of our community. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and support my channel. That way I could make more videos for you guys to sew and sell. Okay, now we're gonna stitch 1/4 of an inch all around our top. So let's do that. Go slow on the bulk on the seam. Smaller than 1/4 of an inch won't hurt, so you could definitely do that. There you go. Now you're finished. You just fold it. You've got your fabric basket. Isn't that cool? There you go. You've got your fabric basket. Isn't that so easy to make? So for our next part of this tutorial, we're gonna learn how to make a pouch, a zippered pouch. So that's really exciting. So thank you guys for watching this one, and I'll see you on the next one.